Welcome to Betrayal Affairs. In today's video, the first sound that registered in my memory wasn't traffic outside or the hum of the hotel air conditioner, it was the uneven, frantic rhythm of my own breathing. Each breath was heavy, almost ragged, as if my body already knew I was crossing into forbidden territory before my mind could catch up. His hands were on me, familiar hands I had once memorized like my own, hands that had not touched me in years. And yet here they were, pulling me back into a world I had promised myself I had shut forever. The coolness of the hotel sheets pressed against my back, a sharp contrast to the dangerous warmth radiating from his body. My wedding ring caught the dim glow of the bedside lamp as he gripped my hand tightly. That single flash of metal should have stopped me, should have jolted me back to reality, but it didn't. I didn't stop him. I couldn't. This wasn't just a kiss. It wasn't a slip of control. It was fire devouring every vow I had ever spoken, every promise I had once believed unbreakable. I whispered his name, my ex's name, as if it were a secret mantra. And as I did, my husband was miles away, believing I was out with a girlfriend for dinner. By the time it was over and the silence filled the room, sweat cooling on my skin, I knew I had crossed a threshold that could never be undone. I had done the one thing I swore I would never do. I had slept with my ex. An hour later, I was back in my own neighborhood, pulling quietly into my driveway, slipping inside my house like nothing had changed. My husband lay upstairs, waiting. I crawled into bed beside him, my skin still haunted by another man's touch, pretending I was the faithful wife he still thought I was. Before I go any further, let me pause for a moment. To every single one of you watching, thank you. Your presence here, your willingness to hear these raw, unfiltered stories, means more than I can ever explain. To my subscribers, you are the lifeblood of this channel, fueling each new upload with your loyalty and encouragement. And if you're new here or returning but haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now is the perfect moment. That single click gives me the energy to keep unraveling these stories of betrayal, heartbreak, and consequences. And please, don't hold back. Share your thoughts in the comments as we move through this story. I want to know what you would have done, how you feel about what I'm about to reveal. Now let me take you back to the beginning, to the place where all of this started. My name is Claire. I'm 36 years old. I live in a suburban neighborhood in North Carolina, a quiet street lined with tidy lawns, mailboxes standing in neat rows, the kind of place where everyone waves at each other but never digs too deep into anyone's private life. On the surface, mine looked picture perfect. I'd been married to my husband, Daniel, for 11 years. Daniel is the type of man who embodies reliability. He is steady, consistent, the kind of husband everyone assumes you're lucky to have. He works as a financial advisor, a career that demands long hours but ensures security. Our home had everything an outsider might envy, a wraparound porch where we drank coffee on weekends, 2 reliable cars in the driveway, vacations once a year, and a lifestyle of quiet comfort. But behind closed doors, reality was different. Daniel loved me, of that I have no doubt, but his love was shaped by routine. He gave stability, yes, but he stopped giving passion. Our dinners became quiet affairs, eaten more out of obligation than connection. Conversations were shallow, mostly about errands or bills. Intimacy became a matter of schedule, something we penciled in like an appointment. Sometimes I looked at him across the dinner table and felt more like I was sitting with a roommate than a partner. That was the state of my marriage when Mark reappeared. Mark had been my first serious love, the wild, reckless boyfriend from my college years. He wasn't someone you built a future with, and back then I knew it. He was chaos in human form, spontaneous, passionate, unpredictable. But he also made me feel alive. We had gone separate ways when adulthood demanded responsibility, but he lingered in the corners of my memory as the man who once set my heart racing. Years later, his name flashed across my social media feed. Just a friend request at first. My finger hovered over delete, but curiosity won. That single click opened a door I didn't realize I still wanted to step through. The first message was innocent. "Hey, it's been forever. How have you been?" I could have ignored it. I should have ignored it. But I replied. And from that moment, the floodgates opened. Our conversations started simple, nostalgic, catching up on the past, reminiscing about places and people we once knew. But quickly they became something more. I found myself lying in bed at night, the soft glow of my phone illuminating my face while Daniel slept beside me, sending messages to a man I should have left in the past. His words carried me back to the version of myself I had lost, the carefree girl who laughed loudly, who was spontaneous, who wasn't weighed down by responsibilities and routines. And just like that, I felt seen again. Text messages turned into late-night calls. Calls turned into video chats. Eventually, temptation demanded more. We planned to meet. The first time I saw him again was at a coffee shop in downtown Raleigh. I'll never forget the way my stomach twisted with guilt as I walked toward him. He was leaning against the window, his smile crooked, his eyes still holding the same mischief I remembered from years ago. When he hugged me, the scent of his cologne hit me like a time machine. In that moment, guilt wasn't enough to outweigh the rush of desire. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into late drinks. Excuses flowed easily to Daniel, claims of work running late, or dinners with girlfriends. Each lie made the next one easier. I told myself it was harmless, just catching up. But deep down, I knew what I was doing. I was feeding a fire I had no intention of putting out. Then one night, Mark sent me a message that changed everything. Meet me. I've booked a hotel. I stared at my phone, my pulse racing. I knew exactly what that invitation meant. This wasn't about coffee or nostalgia anymore. If I walked into that hotel, there would be no undoing it. I told Daniel I was meeting Jenny, my closest friend, for dinner. He was sitting on the couch with his laptop when I kissed him on the cheek and left. I can still feel the crushing weight of that lie as I closed the door behind me. The hotel lobby was dim, quiet. The hallway stretched endlessly as I walked toward the room number Mark had given me. When the door opened, he pulled me inside without hesitation, his lips pressing against mine before I could even breathe. Every vow I had made dissolved under the intensity of that moment. My wedding ring pressed coldly into his chest when I clutched him, a cruel reminder of the man I was betraying. And yet, I didn't stop. The passion was overwhelming, intoxicating. Reckless. It consumed me until nothing else existed. When it was over, I stared at the ceiling in silence, guilt gnawing at me while desire still pulsed through my veins. I had just done the unthinkable. And instead of ending it, I went home to Daniel, pretending nothing had happened. The next morning, I lay in bed listening to him brew coffee downstairs, the rich aroma filling the house. That smell, once comforting, now felt like an accusation. He kissed my temple, handed me a mug, and smiled the same way he always had. Meanwhile, I carried a secret that was rotting me from the inside. I told myself it was a mistake. A one-time lapse in judgment. I swore I wouldn't see Mark again. But then his message came. Last night was unforgettable. When can I see you again? And just like that, the cycle began. By day, I was Daniel's wife, folding laundry, cooking meals, attending neighborhood gatherings. By night, I was Mark's secret. I hid in bathrooms to text him, deleted call logs, silenced notifications. The secrecy became its own kind of addiction, a thrill that made me feel alive. Each lie I told Daniel became easier, because he never doubted me. His trust was blind, and I weaponized it against him. The second time, Mark and I met in his truck on the outskirts of town. The windows fogged, my wedding ring pressing uncomfortably against my skin. Guilt washed over me afterward, but it wasn't strong enough to stop me. Then Daniel surprised me. Over dinner one night, he told me he'd booked a weekend in Asheville for the two of us, back to the place where we had honeymooned. His eyes were warm, hopeful. He wanted to rekindle what we had lost. My chest ached as I smiled and agreed. But deep inside, another voice whispered, "How will I tell Mark I'll be gone that weekend?" That trip to Asheville should have been the lifeline to save us. Daniel held my hand as we walked through the gardens of the Biltmore estate, kissed me beneath the glow of mountain sunsets. For a fleeting moment, I felt the old spark ignite. But even in his arms, I thought of Mark. That realization made me sick. One night, while Daniel slept beside me in the hotel room, I crept into the bathroom and texted Mark. My hands shook as I typed, but the urge was too strong. I miss you. His reply came instantly, when you're back, come to me. Back home, paranoia set in. For the first time, Daniel's glances lingered. His questions seemed heavier. One night, he walked in just as I hid my phone under a pillow. Who are you talking to? He asked. My lie came too quickly, Jenny, we're planning a trip. He nodded, but I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Meanwhile, Mark was growing impatient. He wanted more time, more risk, more commitment. One night, he whispered against my skin, leave him. Be with me. The words chilled me. Leave Daniel? Leave the life I had built for chaos? Deep down, I knew Mark would never be stable. He was passion and destruction, and I was letting him drag me into the fire. Then came the night everything unraveled. Daniel and I had just finished dinner, pasta and salad, simple and ordinary. Afterward, he disappeared into his office upstairs, while I curled up in the living room with my phone. I hovered over Mark's name, torn between guilt and desire. I gave in, typing thinking of you. His reply came fast, come over. I need you tonight. My chest tightened. Reckless. Dangerous. But I grabbed my purse and walked upstairs to give Daniel my usual excuse about meeting Jenny. I opened the office door and froze. On his laptop screen wasn't a spreadsheet or work emails. It was me. My messages. My words to Mark. Daniel turned toward me, his face pale but his voice steady. Too steady. How long? The world tilted. My throat closed. I wanted to lie, to twist the truth, but his eyes told me he already knew everything. How long have you been cheating on me, Claire? Tears welled, but they weren't from innocence. Only shame. My voice was a whisper, a few months. His shoulders sagged under the weight of my confession. His voice cracked, laced with betrayal, I gave you everything. I trusted you completely. And you destroyed it. I reached for him, desperate to touch him, but he recoiled as if my skin burned. Don't, he said sharply. You have no right. The days that followed were silence and distance. Daniel moved into the guest room. I tried to explain, but he shut me out. There was nothing left to say. Mark filled my phone with messages, begging me to leave Daniel, promising me passion. But suddenly, I saw him clearly. He wasn't salvation. He was chaos. He was destruction. He was the spark that had lit the fire, but I was the one who had struck the match. One night, Daniel sat me down at the kitchen table. His voice was quiet, broken. Why, Claire? Why did you do it? My throat burned as I answered. Because I felt empty. Because I wanted to feel alive again. Because I was selfish. His eyes glistened with tears. Do you realize what you destroyed? Do you realize what you threw away? Yes. I did. But apologies couldn't rebuild what I had burned. The end came quickly. Daniel packed a suitcase, folding shirts with mechanical precision. I stood in the doorway, begging silently with my eyes, but he wouldn't look at me. When I asked where he would go, his reply was flat, somewhere you're not. I can't look at you without seeing him. At the door, his hand lingered on the handle. For a moment, I thought he might turn, might offer forgiveness. Instead, he said, "You killed us, Claire. Remember that." Then he was gone. In the weeks that followed, the walls of my house became a prison. Friends drifted away, whispers circulated in the neighborhood, Daniel's family cut ties completely. Mark still called, still begged, but he no longer represented passion, only the wreckage of my choices. One night, I sat on the porch, the air cool against my skin, staring at the empty chair where Daniel once sat with his glass of bourbon, laughing about his day. That chair was empty now, just like the life I had destroyed. And I realized, with searing clarity, that I hadn't traded my marriage for love. I hadn't even traded it for happiness. I had traded it for fleeting fire that burned everything to ash. If I learned anything, it's this: betrayal doesn't end with the act itself. It spreads, breaking hearts, shattering trust, leaving scars that never fade. Daniel is gone. My marriage is over. Forgiveness is not part of this story. All that remains is regret.